it's funny because instead of getting like more acceptable and accessible, we get more extreme, and we seem to be accepted more as we go along.
Yeah, we are the Fall, and we are the best. Yeah, we are the Fall, and we are the best. Yeah, we are the Fall, and we are the best. Yeah, we are the Fall, and we are the best.
Welcome back to We Are the Fall. Today we're going on an hour-long journey into the psychic landscape of hexes, witchcraft. Things will be induced. I don't know. I was listening to this album today when I was walking around, and it's basically in Austin. It's like the changing from fall to winter right now, and I know in Chicago, it's pretty much winter right now, right?
It started just about 2 or 3 days ago. It finally actually got to be about 20 on it for a regular basis, so we're enjoying that.
So today we're doing the Hex Enduction Hour by the Fall, and when I was listening to this album again today, walking around, I was thinking, is there a prime season for listening to the fall? Because we have literally we have the fall, and on this album we have the fall playing songs entitled Winter. So we got two of the options, but today it felt especially appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are a better inside listening.
Yeah.
I listened a lot, in the summer, getting prepped for this, and headphones, cutting the grass, being outside on a small speaker, and I don't think you get the
Yeah.
you don't really get it. You get a lot of noise, and you get some lyrics in the background, but you're not really experiencing the art side of things. So I think it is nice to either have,
is the fall meant to be leisurely? I don't think it's supposed to be leisurely at all. Like, even, I mean, mowing grass is work, but I don't know if that's the work that Mark and the gang are instilling in each other and in the music. And it's also not very warm music, right? It's not going to be summertime music. Mark is also always wearing a suit, so that's not.
Yeah,
That's more fall. That's more fall attire.
sure. And I think even just the weather in Manchester probably affects him a little bit. Just that it's not a very
Yeah.
nice weather city.
There's some overcast, the harsh light.
Rainy, drizzly.
Yeah, the diffused light landscape.
An industrial background.
Industrial estate.
There you go.
Yeah. And also, I always picture with and actually we're going to get into it on this album, on the A side, towards the end of the A side, are very urban songs that are very much of Manchester. And when I hear these songs, I think of like a blue tinted like urban landscape, like Michael Mann film, like and like a Chicago in general too, like cinder block, solid concrete buildings, structures, brick. Any sort of season where you're gonna be inside or you're outside, but you have to be in the elements.
Yeah,
that might be best.
A little bit uncomfortable.
A little bit uncomfortable, exactly.
Yeah.
a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit on edge. If you're not already feeling the anxiety, some music will help take you there. Today we're going to be talking about the fall's fourth, fifth, depending on how you count it, studio album, Hex Enduction Hour, where Mark and what we have come to agree is one of the better, if not one of the best fall lineups. Making an album partially in Iceland and partially in the UK, and making a really interesting album that is very rewarding once you kind of give yourself over to it and allow it to crack open a little bit. What are your overall feelings about this one?
It's a noisy album. There's a lot of keyboard that goes on throughout the whole thing. It's kind of like making noises in the background that everyone else is just kind of playing on top of. Not very many backing vocals either for most of the songs. I mean, at least not that are contributing that much. They're more just kind of, again, like the keyboard, just kind of noises in the background versus contributing a lot to the lyrics of the song.
Yeah, and we get Mark doubling his own vocals, I think, at some points, and also not even doubling them up, but kind of creating layers of his voice over himself, which is cool, which we get into. And then this is the album where I feel like, well, at this point, Mark is pissed off. Mark and Kay are pissed off with Rough Trade Records, their label, because they feel like they're not being supported, or they're somewhat being clumped together with other bands that they consider shitty bands that shouldn't probably deserve the kind of support that they're getting, and they're getting clumped into it and not getting the support where they think they should be. You know, as usual, Mark thinks they should be at the high tier, which they probably should be, especially if they're going to be working on and developing this album, which is potentially could have been on Rough Trade, but the relationship was falling through. Mark's getting upset. They're not getting supported or the accolades that they deserve. So they go on this tour in Iceland, and this guy who's basically sets up the tour for him just by meeting Mark and Kay says, come to Iceland. I'll set up a tour for you and you guys can play shows. And I think they played only like 3 shows, which probably is sufficient for the population of Iceland. And they played a couple of shows, and then they played like a matinee show, which was they said mostly kids, which I would love to have seen what that experience was like for the kids' reactions. But so they're making this album. They're over there. They're not really considering making the album, but they said, oh, well, let's just record while we're here. And they record 2 songs that end up being on Hex Enduction Hour, Hip Priest, and I think Jawbone and the Air Rifle, and then another song that becomes a single. And they record in this cool, they call it like a cave. Well, I think it was a cave, like studio. And it was supposed to be like really, they said it was nice. They said it was very classy. It had like a grand piano, and the acoustics were really awesome. And they got this studio, and they're used to being in not the best studios. And also when they were in the studios, they were only booked for like a couple days, and they had to get everything done. So they got the studio, and they were like, oh, it actually sounds good. And their boy, Grant Showbiz, he gets them going, and he actually starts to try to make the fall sound better by making them more isolated in their recordings and using microphone techniques. And I think on those tracks that they did in Iceland are some of the best ones that are on this album as far as sound, capturing the fall sound in a cool space. it's called Hex Enduction Hour, and it's almost exactly an hour long. And this is Mark cramming, as usual, as much music as he can on the record, almost to where it's physically impossible for them to cut the record. And one of the mastering engineers in the UK, or actually I think multiple, said that they wouldn't cut the vinyl because they said they just didn't want to deal with it because it was too difficult to cut that much music onto one record, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as always, right? We're gonna fill it up and press the limits, right? See where it can really where the final line is in the sand.
I almost wonder when Mark had the concept that this was gonna be. He come up with the title Hex Enduction Hour, and then he's like, we definitely have an hour's worth of music. I'm definitely gonna try to put all this music on there. He's never really aware or caring much about the limitations of anything. So remember when they made the Slates EP, and then they made it a 10-inch, they made it a 10-inch record, which the record company's like, we would rather have multiple singles or an LP so we can actually make money. And Mark's like, no, I'd rather have this be a 10-inch record because then it'll be affordable. And why not just make it a 10-inch record? What's the fucking holdup? So he didn't really care about the physical limitations. He just wanted it done. So apparently they got a guy in the U.S. or they got a mastering engineer to cut the record so that an hour's worth of music could fit onto a record. And typically a record only holds about like 22, 24 minutes on a side. So they were really pushing how much, and that's going to take the fidelity down, which I think for the fall's sake, it doesn't really matter.
No.
I mean, a lot of talk is given to this album because it was recorded in Iceland, a few of the songs. But Iceland had a prohibition on beer for a long time, and for some reason that I'm not clear on, and I think a lot of people that visited there and lived there were also unclear about. But so when the Fall went there, the first thing that they experienced was they got off the plane, they went through the security check, and the guy that was setting up their tour, the Icelandic guy, I forgot his name, but he was like on the other side of the glass, and he held up this sign and he pushed it against the glass, and it said, "Buy beer." It said buy beer because that was the last point where they could buy it at the duty free before they got into the city, or just left the airport where they could actually buy beer. So they just spent every single pound that they had together to buy as much beer as they could before they left the airport. And then after they left the airport and got to the hotel, I guess a bunch of other Icelandic individuals that were going to help out were just sitting around like, hey, can I get one of those? Since we can't get can I, you mind if I have one of those beers? So they said that they just went through it like within the afternoon or the evening or whenever they got there. And that actually caused some effects too.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. I could imagine they didn't like that drying out feeling.
Well, the thing was they could get spirits, right? They could drink spirits. They could drink, hard alcohols. But even Marky Smith was saying something like, it was fucking awful. You could only get like a pint. I would have had to drink a pint of peach schnapps. So that's what he was working with. And Paul Hanley said he had like the worst hangovers ever because they're used to just drinking, just like a shitload of beer. And they're drinking spirits every night.
Yeah, I'm probably some bootleg homemade stuff.
Yeah, probably.
Some bathtub wine, whatnot.
Yeah, probably. So they had that experience, and then they said, just being in Iceland was a weird vibe because the people, they said they got like well received for the most part. They were like on the front of the newspaper as like the band that was coming to Iceland and everyone should see it. They were well received, but they said the Icelandic culture, the people, was a weird vibe to them where it was something like along the lines of, they said it was like us versus them. And they said that actually worked out well because the fall was always us versus them. So it was kind of like the same kind of mentality, just that they were experiencing, and not the most fully welcoming. But overall, they said it was successful, and it came out with this album. So let's jump into Hex Enduction Hour. Let's start it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, so it was released on March 8th, 1982, recorded in September of 81 in Iceland. 2 songs.
2 songs on this album, and then one extra song they recorded. It was a single that they used as a single. And a lot of these songs, they were playing live, right? And we have an episode, the live tour they did right before this, or relatively close to this in America. You could tell that these songs were developing along that tour, and they really are hitting a point where the band is so tight and they're laying these songs down that they're just ready to do it. And then there's a couple songs on this album which are just as fresh as they could be, where they actually, in one instance, they actually record the song and never play it live, which is super rare for the fall. They record it live in one take in the studio and never play it again successfully. So that's also interesting. I think that's enough background.
Let's go. Number 1, the classical.
The classical. The classical, one of the fall's undisputed classic tracks. This one starts off with, I think very fittingly starts off with Mark yelling at the listener or the made-up audience and berating them.
Yeah, yelling at the audience or yelling at the antagonist, and
in a satirical
trying
way.
to grab he just likes to grab that attention, right? Like this.
Yeah.
Why did he say that? What is he talking about? Is he talking to me?
Yeah.
What's he talking about?
Is he telling me to do something or not? That I'm not doing something or I'm doing something? Yeah. I mean, I almost take it he's calling out like a record executive. You know, this is almost part of the dispute between him and Rough Trade Records getting on the record, as he usually does. He wants to put it down on record. You know, talking about, you know, token individuals and mindsets in the record industry, where he's not getting his respect as usual. Can't get no.
It's got a message for him.
Yeah, it's a message. But then he's also saying, I never felt better in my life, which is a great line of deflecting. Even though he feels like he's getting constrained a little bit or a lot, he's still like, well, fuck it. I'm still going to make sure I'm getting what I need so I can move forward.
Yeah, he seems like he feeds off of that too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're all against me. I'm out here on this island by myself. I'm the only one who really gets it. I'm more creative than all of you.
Yep. There's a couple instances on this record where it's him, and especially when we get into the third track, where it's him saying more or less, everyone's trying to imitate me, but no one's really appreciating me. So, you know, what do I got to do? I guess I'll just keep on teaching you how to do this the right way with the band.
Yeah, with the musicians writing the music. I just write these lyrics that carry you onward and forward.
This one is one of the best lead-off tracks that the fall has in general, is because it sounds live. I mean, it's recorded live, but it sounds like it could be part of the opening of a show. They've already done a couple full-length records. They've done a couple live album compilation albums, and they've done a couple EPs. So now this is where they're kind of hitting their stride of more or less, now let's do something that's real unique. Let's do something that really impresses us instead of just impresses. I don't think they were ever trying to just impress the audience. They were trying to impress themselves. But this is the point where they're kind of like, oh, we're actually musicians now and considered musicians. Let's use the skill sets that we have to make something that's really just our full, the voice of the fall. And I think that's what you get on this album, and especially on this first side, which I consider just like almost perfect first side of an album. And the classical is a great way to start it off. Get the live edge, get the energy, and then go into a song that they've been playing live for a long time before they record it properly. It's been on Peel sessions. It's been on live records that are recorded before they recorded this album, that'll come out around the same time. And shall we get into Jawbone and the Air Rifle?
Here we go. Song number 2.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great second song. Just the speed of it gets you sitting on the edge of your seat again. And classical sounded great. Was that classical fall sound? And here we go again with them pumping you up.
Yeah, and then remember on the first couple albums when we were just discussing how when they figured out how to change tempos, it was really like a big jump for them,
Yeah.
songwriting wise. And then on this album, you're going to get all sorts of tempos, which really just is like shows that they can just sprawl out whenever. And especially in this song where it just, the bottom drops out of it in the middle. It is like a chorus, but it's not. It's another verse for him to have another part of the story, but just changes and deflects the tone slightly.
Why do you think they brought Harm? That air rifle.
This is the hunter that's going out in search of something that he can't find easily at home. And I like the line, carries the germ of a curse of the Broken Brothers Pinnacle Church. It's the start of being the curse of the hex, the hex play is coming upward. This is, to me, the first fall album that is as close as you can be to a concept album. The other ones just seemed, up to this point in the discography, seemed like a collection of songs. These songs on Hex Enduction Hour seem very much like not even the sequencing, but they're all related. Not even the story, but it's almost like they're all related in some sort of weird dimension. There's a connection.
Yeah, where a lot of the other ones, it's like, well, this song is ready to go. Put it down.
Yeah, exactly. We've been playing this one for a long time, and this one is next on the list of oldest songs, so we're going to do it.
And, maybe they did that consciously or not, but, like, they did save some of these. Like, they've been playing this a long time, right? Like, so did they keep it in their back pocket, waiting to put it in the right spot, which is makes it a complete kind of experience.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think because they had these songs that they've been playing for a long time, that they decided that this is the time to put them together, and also a bunch of songs that are pretty much brand new that they put together, and then a couple songs that they just write on the spot, which are, not even brand new. They're just on the spot. They said, we need another song, make a song. Let's try to make a song that's like this, or that has glockenspiel, or that has a banjo. And then they just make it, and they said, oh, yep, that fits. That fits. There wasn't a set structure to it, but they all come together so well that it seems like it is. And also having a couple of these tracks in here that are either two tracks put together, or the same tracks separated, or tracks that are edited down from super long, which we'll get into as well, it's like kind of like the puzzle pieces they were trying to put together to fit it, to make sure that everything is represented, but also that is exactly 1 hour, because that's super important to mark that it's exactly 1 hour long.
1 hour.
Yeah, Jawbone and their rifle.
Nice. Yeah, nice fast song. 3 minutes.
Yep, I like
4.
it.
Gets you feeling good. Gets you ready to settle in for another.
1, 2. Yep.
For Hip Priest, coming in at 7 minutes and 44 seconds. This is one of the songs that was recorded in Iceland.
Yep, this was one of the main ones, and there's a sound in here that I want you to see. Here, and see if you can figure out what it is. Jawbone and the air rifle at 3:15, and I feel like it sounds like scissors.
The scraping.
Yeah, and then at the very end, it's like a spring. It's like a bed mattress spring. And what is that? I like that, because I was listening to the other day in the car, and I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck is that sound?" And it doesn't sound like one of Mark's tape recorder loops.
It's definitely. Yeah, I can't tell what that is at all.
And what can that be?
It's like a rabbit.
Yeah, an animal sound, or also
Because it does
like the scraping of bones, because he's talking about like scraping.
Because it keeps going from that point on. It keeps repeating itself.
It does, and then it starts sounding like a spring at the end, like a Well, if anyone out there knows what the sound is at the end of Jawbone and Air Rifle, please let us know, because I would love to know. Let's get Mark's sermon going. Let's see what the priest has to say today. It's such a weird, great song. And it's got to be... Mark says this is not about him, but this is one where it's pretty apparent, right? He is the hip priest.
He would never call himself that, though.
No, he would never call himself that, which is why he always deflects it, and denies it. But this is definitely, he's the hipster priest, like he is the guy, and even he used to say that the rough trade, he's like, those art school, like those fucking art school, basically like yuppie people that work at rough trade, they would come up to me and tell me that an idea for an album that I should do and tell me what I should be doing. He's like, they don't know what the fuck I need to be doing. So this is kind of him, like, yeah, he needs to teach. He's the teacher, you know, he's the preacher. Also, he's hypnotic.
Yeah, and they take their time on this song and just slowly take you into it.
It's a perfect evidence of them playing so many shows together and being so tight that they were ready to record this one. Because remember, we were listening to this one as the live recording.
Yeah.
And it sounds good.
And even it's even on not Hip Priest. I was gonna say it was on a Peel session, but that was Jawbone.
Yeah. But the same situation, right? You get to hear it in different forms going. Actually, in Paul Hanley's book, he says, I kind of don't like it. There were so many live recordings of this song, and then we did it like so well on the actual record, that it's kind of unfortunate that you hear it progressing. You know, you kind of see behind the scenes of it forming. But I like that. I like that you can see all the different iterations of it before it gets to basically the quote unquote, you know, solidified version. But we know it's not, because then they're going to just keep going further with it as they play more live shows. But it is great because you can tell they were playing it live so much and they didn't really have a feel of when it was supposed to, you know, ebb and flow. And then on this version, it's like almost natural. They know when Mark is getting worked up, and then they know when he's going to go into his whisper, drop it down.
Yeah.
There's also some great lines in here. I think they're little shout outs to like Chris Christopherson, because he says, I got my last clean dirty shirt out of the wardrobe, which is pretty similar to a Chris Christopherson line from Sunday Morning Coming Down, which I know he was Chris Christopherson fan, so it makes sense. But this has such dynamics, you know, and a piano, like an actual piano that sounds like a piano.
Like not oppressive keyboard noises.
I think they said like they went into the studio and they saw this nice ass piano and they're like, oh, we're definitely going to use this.
Does anyone here know how to play this instrument?
No? Okay, we're still going to use it. This is the album I also feel like where Mark Riley goes off on these keyboards. Like, it kind of takes the reign of the keyboard duties. Like, from the far out, you know, just, you know, riffing just to riff, to really melodic. I think he does a really good job. Anything else for Hip Priest?
No, I think time to go do some laundry. All my clothes are dirty. Gonna go have a long draw and do the laundry.
Okay, let's go.
Who's Dan, by the way?
I'm not sure. I'm just gonna assume an author. Okay, so we're halfway through side A. And these songs coming up right now, we're going to Fortress / Deer Park, and then we're going into Mere Pseudo magazine editor. I'm assuming that's what it is. And then we're going into the first part of the winter track. But I guess these 3 tracks together, and I would even put 4 if you split up this Fortress and Deer Park, these ones together are so good. This is like a suite for me. Like, this is a suite of songs that all go together. They're all very much of a British urban perspective that I really like. As an American listener, this is what I like to hear, is like a guy that's very urban who doesn't like going to the country talk about country stuff in a very pissed off way. Not even pissed off, just like, oh, did you do it? You know, did you go out there? I like that. Mark didn't drive anywhere. He didn't go to the country. He didn't want to be in the country. and I like that he can write about it so well.
All right, let's roll into Fortress.
2 hours with 4 left-wing kids. I spent time in Nazi Fortress. Much discussion in room CH 10 CH 11. I did not understand why I could not accept the fact that I'd accepted the contract. Much discussion in this institution. Much discussion in boiled beef and carrots. Room CH 10 CH 2 11.
So I believe they played Deer Park on one of the Peel sessions, an early version, and it did not have this kind of impact. Pairing it up with Fortress, come on. Carl Burns drumming, as usual. This was also the point in the fall where, because Paul Hanley couldn't go to the U.S. on that tour because he was 17, when they came back, he was kind of, he was kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit because Carl's like, oh, yeah, besides all the songs that we've been playing and getting really tight on, there's also these new songs, and you got to learn how to play them exactly like me, or at least complimentary to me. And it seemed like he was all for it. I mean, he's 17 years old, and he knows that Carl Burns is a fucking awesome drummer, and he still does. So he's like, I'm going to try to keep up. But it comes across.
Yeah, they definitely play off each other well.
And this one they recorded in the UK. This one was in Iceland, right? No. We got Mark Riley playing great drone keys. I prefer these when he's using the keyboard just as single note drone, just as another layer of texture. It's not too busy. If you get too busy, Mark's words are so busy, you don't want to get in the way of that. So something simple like that is great. Along with the chugging along of a nice Craig Scanlon guitar. And there's points where he even changes up, like, he's like, you get hypnotized by the 2 notes and Mark's lyrics going over the top. And then there's times where he just like misses it, he misses the note. And we hear that sometimes with Steve Hanley's bass. I think even on the classical, he tries to play a bass solo and he does not hit it, or he hits some off notes, and they just left it in there and it still sounds good. It actually sounds better. Sounds better than if he hit all those notes. But you know what I'm saying? It sounds better because it was like, they're like, no, I actually went for it.
Yeah, I was
instead of playing it safe.
And we weren't going back. We're not going back into it.
We're not overdubbing that.
That's what really gives it that live feel, even when it's not live. Is like most other bands would have gone back through and edit, or redone it, done a lot of these things, and decided no, that doesn't work at all. Take that out completely.
I mean, when I'm listening to this, like any of these first tracks, when you're hearing the band playing together and they are just really going for it as like a take, and there's little flubs or something there, that makes me want to make music, because I'm not listening to a fucking polished thing that's so overproduced where I'm like, that's inaccessible, or that's so beautiful but it's inaccessible to me, so I'm not going to even think about how I could do something that's that impactful, because it's almost not real.
No, it's not. It didn't happen immediately or easily, right? It was not that it needs to be easy, but
no,
it takes
it has to be natural though, right?
Natural. It takes the rawness, and it just so polished that it loses that the feeling behind it sometimes.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, you can't imagine a guy just or a girl sitting there and just shredding it up on the guitar when it's perfect, right? Like,
No, especially when you get towards the end of this track, Fortress in Deer Park, where the guitar is just coming in with this snarl, where it's been typically chugging along the whole song, and then out of a sudden, it's just going off the rails, and getting that grind.
yeah, faster. I mean, I feel like this whole song is just like faster. Like we're hearing it right now, faster, faster, faster.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like it does not take many breaths for the last 5 minutes of this
No.
song.
No. There's even like some pseudo drum fills that are done by one of the drummers. I don't know who, where it's just like a single note drum beat where it just sticks out like a sore thumb where they're like, huh, how are we gonna finish this? Like they're kind of searching around, huh, how will this end? But they do wrap it up nicely with that keyboard drone. And then we jump into what I consider another part of this suite of songs of the Manchester Urban Suite is a beautiful rendition of a song, a love letter, you would say, to a music journalist. Let's get it.
His brain was in his arse. His hand was well out of his pockets. His sight is in the heart. Had a bed which was weird some time ago. Every was in 81 has a Spanish guitar.
His brain was in his arse.
It starts like it's going to be a love song in tone, and then it goes into straight up post-punk art smear. He's just really just taking the piss out of some critic or some writer that he did not see eye to eye with. And he had what does he say? He had a beard, which was weird. Some time ago, he heard Ramones in 81, has a Spanish guitar. Like that, I know that person. Like, I mean, I know that person exists, and I know that's a real person. That's a caricature of
somebody
someone
he does not like.
No.
Or not even not like, he does not respect, and
no respect.
Is tired of them actually having their voice heard.
Yeah, because then the Spanish guitar doesn't get far in computer teaching job. He's like distilled them down into like they're just into the physical items.
His dream girl's even a loser.
I like how he adds father at the end, even though it's not the title of the song. But I think he should have put father at the end of the title of the song. But when I first heard this song and I was listening to it, and I wasn't looking at the track list too much, I thought he was saying, they sued my editor's father, which I really liked, which I was visualizing really, really well. And I really liked that. It wasn't they didn't sue him, like the person that's narrating this story. They didn't sue his editor. They sued his editor's father, who I would take it as, the money behind the magazine or the publication.
Yeah,
which I really liked. Which is like he's three people removed from the person that's being actively, impacted by some action of being a lawsuit, and Mark is just, a bystander that's just taking it in. and maybe kind of like reveling in it a little bit in a positive way, like kind of getting off on on the magazine getting sued,
Yeah.
but then some rich fucking dad is taking care of it.
All right, we have the last one on side A here.
Okay,
Winter Hostel Maxi.
the first part of the winter.
Winter songs, which I mean, I think are just the same song, but for some reason they decided to put them on the A and a B side.
Yeah,
Not only back to back, but we'll make you flip. Maybe that was the engineer's fault. He couldn't fit them both. Come on, you are. So let's get this on side A. Nope, can't be done, Mark. If you want the whole hour.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do it. I think it works out for the benefit though of the album. You know, would you rather have a winter track that's 8 minutes, 9 minutes long, or would you rather have 2 sections of winter? I like the 2 sections of winter, and I also like the creative name of the second winter, which is Winter 2.
Very, very thoughtful. Makes you flip it over. You got to finish the song, right?
I mean, maybe it's a callback to Crap Rap 2. You know, maybe they're related in the song lineage. Let's just talk about these together, and then we can talk about what the album art.
All right.
These are nice. This is a nice fall in a slow tempo dirge, which I think they do really well. Sometimes I think they could go a little bit over the top with trying to fill in, you know, the sonic arena with as much as possible, but when they leave a lot of space, I think it sounds even better. A simple bass line, meandering guitar, and they start using reverb.
Brand new. Just found out about it.
There's one thing I was reading, there was Grant Showbiz saying, he's like, around the time that I was recording the songs on Hex Enduction, he only recorded the Iceland session, but he's like, around that time I built my home studio, so I was really getting into recording things better, you know, and like, he's like, and I became friends with Mr. Reverb, and Mr. Reverb started showing up a lot more, and I started using it, and he got Mark on board. You should also say on this album that Mark's vocals are mixed in very nicely, and we know this is always a key. As far as I'm concerned, that's one of the main keys of a good, if a fall album is good or not, is like, did they get Mark's voice in there so that it's complementary and also the music complements him in a nice mix so that it's immersive? Because a little too far one way or the other, and you're kind of in trouble. Too low, and that's just not the way to go.
No, I mean, that's what you're coming for, right? And Mark's lyrics, and you don't get very far with only Mark's lyrics, because they are just so, you know, they can be so abstract, and
you don't want him to cover up the band, especially this band that's fucking so good at being musicians. They're so good at being thoughtful. Mark Riley playing a beautiful scale piano synth.
I do like it.
Walking step. It's great because it fades out on that A side, and then the B side comes in, and it's coming back. It's almost like while you were flipping that record over, they kept going, you know. And you put the needle on there, and you're like, oh, I just caught up with them again. Yep, they're still in there. They're still in the speaker playing this for me.
I could hear the hum of the speakers while I took my time flipping it over, and there they are.
Here they are. Mark soloing. Also, I read, which I really like and I appreciate, is when they did the live record. I mean, they recorded these like as live full takes. And so during the takes, like if Mark Riley was playing the guitar at the beginning of the song, he would be playing the guitar at the beginning of the song, and then when the keyboard part started, he would just go over the keyboard and start playing the keyboard. And I like that. It's so much better than be like, oh, we'll just put the keyboard on later, we'll just overdub it. No, it's a full performance. You go from guitar, when you're done playing guitar, you get that keyboard going, and then maybe you bring back the guitar at the end. But it shows the Fall's work ethic, where it's like, no, if it's not practical, then, or if you're trying to produce it more, why don't you just do it the practical way? Just do it
at the same time, right?
Yeah,
they're not manufacturing anything. There's nothing added for aesthetics or for make it something that it's not.
Mm-hmm. No, it's purely about just getting that in the moment feel. And it probably makes it easier for them to say, I think we got it, it's done, let's move on. Instead of second guessing themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Or even having the option to go back and edit it, right? It was like, well, we can either start all the way back at the beginning and do it all over again and hope we don't screw it up somewhere else, or we're happy.
Yes. No click track, so there's no, this is pre-click track. And they never really used click track. I think on some of the later albums, they used like a drum machine, so they got into the click track arena, but they were really trying to go for the pure natural groove, the feel. And also, this is just a beautiful, as far as the Fall goes, the winter pieces these are just beautiful pieces of music.
Yeah, you could play this for anybody and they'd enjoy it.
Yeah. This is a meditative portion of the album. It's the reset. You get a little bit of Kay's vocals too, backing vocals.
Yeah, I think she did a little bit of vocals and percussion on this.
How about the line, the mad kid had 4 lights.
Yeah, so
the average is 2.5 lights. The mediocre has 2 lights. The sign of a genius is 3 lights. I like that. Whatever that is, I like that a lot.
There's only one light left.
If you're too bright, it causes problems, right? If you're average brightness, it's average. If you're mediocre, you got a little bit under brightness, that's fine. But the genius is like there's a sweet spot in the brightness level. There's just a sweet spot in there. And if this is winter, this could be the lights around the community in any sort of way. Beautiful. And he has some references to Krakens too, which I don't know if he got that from Iceland. That seems kind of like an Icelandic kind of thing to get into some Kraken mythology.